We are back. You are chatting with John P. Today, I'm going to be talking about two very special watches. I think both of these watches that I am going to be talking about are quite incredible, both in terms of their quality, fit and finish, as well as how they wear and perform on the wrist. On my wrist today, I have, hold on a second. Almost forgot to put it on. I have a Rolex Oyster Precision Vintage Rolex manual wind, hand wound vintage Rolex watch. Let me put this on my wrist. I feel almost naked. That's the thing. When I'm doing videos and I'm actually in my house right now, I typically take my watches off because I'm working on things or I'm out and about, so I don't like to provide unnecessary wear and tear if I'm just around the house. So I take it off. It's on there on the back shelf. But nonetheless, what I'm getting at is today we're going to be talking about some very important watches in my opinion, as well as I'll be changing the camera angle and providing more of an in-depth look at both the watch as well as the movements. And please do not forget to thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. And of course you can see I'm still here making videos and also responding to comments and questions in the comments below, even during these trying times with the quarantine and everything that's going on. So once again, hopefully everyone is doing well with that, and both are well, healthy, as well as being able to continue in whatever they're doing previously before this whole situation kind of happened. So the two watches that we are going, oh, by the way, I need to mention this. At delraywatch.com, we have 10% off. That's right, 10% off all watches under $10,000 today only. But we figure this is a great way that we can kind of keep the watch industry moving, keep everyone happy, and ultimately, you know, keep doing what everyone has been doing before this situation did arise. So if that is something for you, make sure to check that out, delraywatch.com. So the two watches, H. Moser Pioneer Tourbillon, beautiful watch with a beautiful blue dial, as well as the Parmigiani Fleurier Toric chronograph. I also thoroughly enjoy the brand Parmigiani Fleurier. And we're gonna flip the camera angle, talk about the two watches, get a little bit down and dirty, and then mention what I think about the two.
Here we have the H. Moser Pioneer Tourbillon with a gorgeous blue dial. Once again, referring to the slogan of the brand H. Moser, very rare. This piece specifically is limited to a production of only 50 pieces. I personally have only seen a few of these floating around, and of course one of them which we were successfully able to acquire at Del Rey. According to H. Moser directly, the Pioneer Tourbillon model is a flying tourbillon equipped with a double hairspring designed for everyday wear. Features a 3-day power reserve and a steel case water resistant to 120 meters. Now 120 meters, that's quite deep for a tourbillon in my opinion, and I think you'd be extremely hard pressed to find another that does. It is one of the few tourbillons which can be worn with great elegance in any circumstance, once again according to H. Moser, and it blends the genres, offering a sporty reinterpretation of the tourbillon, a resolutely modern and contemporary version of the traditional complication par excellence. So by this description H. Moser gives themselves, it really does show that they want you to wear their watches, they want the watch to be functional, and they want it to be high-end in a modern sense, and of course very rare. And these are recurring themes you see both from the chief executive Edouard Mélin, as well as all of the marketing and literature from the H. Moser brand. So moving on to the rest of the specs of the watch, it's 42.8 millimeters in size, though it does wear a little bit smaller. H. Moser has really climbed up their sizes of their offerings to between 40 and this 42.8 millimeter case size, though some of their older offerings, both currently a watch that I own as well as some of the others we have available, do kind of creep closer towards that 38 to 39 millimeter size. So once again, a function of the times is the size. Rolling onto the movement, this watch features an automatic winding manufacturer caliber HMC 804. The interesting thing about this 804 caliber in this specific watch is it does have a modular design tourbillon. What this means is the watch movement is extremely more easy to service. The tourbillon essentially pops in and screws down. Of course, it's a little bit more complicated than that, though that is the basics. And what this means is that a watchmaker can more easily service this watch compared to an integrated tourbillon or some of the other more sophisticated versions of pulling something like this off. So what this means is cost savings in terms of your ongoing maintenance of the watch, as well as how the watch is going to perform moving forward. And once again, that's something that H. Moser reiterates in all of their literature on this watch, is that it is designed to be sporty and wearable, although it does have a complication, which typically is in watches that are made for quite the opposite. Now, the power reserve on this movement is roughly 3 days, which I think is more than sufficient. They provide this watch to be sporty, but of course it's a tourbillon, so regardless of what H. Moser says, I think that, I don't know too many people that are going to actually perform any types of sports or water sports with this watch, though according to them it is possible. And of course, the dial has that gorgeous blue fume, and I love this dial. I think this is something that Moser absolutely excels with, and this watch is certainly no exception.
And so what I really enjoy about the brand H. Moser, and certainly this H. Moser Pioneer Tourbillon, is the dials. Now, once again, kind of going back to the theme or the slogan of H. Moser is very rare. And when you look at all the interviews, and even when you talk with Edouard Mélin, the whole focal point of the brand is the dials. Now, they focus on the dials because the cases, they're swappable, right? The cases, they can use those for so many different models, including the Pioneer Tourbillon. They can use that, and you can see that they're comfortable doing that even with the way that they handle the movement, in the way that the movement is actually a module in this kind of plug-and-play system for the tourbillon on this specific movement of the watch. And so they're comfortable interchanging pieces and parts, but what you see that is incredibly special with the brand is the dial, and this beautiful limited edition, limited production dial on this tourbillon is absolutely gorgeous. The video really does not do the watch justice. If you have a chance to check out a fume or some of the other dial options that are a little bit more decorated or decadent, I would certainly recommend that you do so. Some of the more plainer dials, even though at face and at surface viewing, they do look like they could be a little bit bland. When you do put those, plain looking simplistic dials under some light, under some different ambient lighting and some temperatures outside in the sun, they really do sparkle and shine, unlike most dials I have seen from any manufacturer. So H. Moser is a brand to keep on the radar, and of course we do have this one available at Delray Watch. Next, we have the Parmigiani Fleurier Toric chronograph. Now, if you're not familiar with the brand, this brand has been out for quite some time, and typically they were using Vaucher movements. Now they have in-house caliber movements. Now we'll talk about what movement this one has in it. It is based off of Zenith Al Primero, obviously an iconic movement. But one thing to keep in mind with this specific Parmigiani Fleurier, and it's a bit of a trivia piece, right? Because this is not going to provide really any value in terms of the specs of the watch, but Prince Charles has been seen wearing either this specific watch or a version of this watch. With Parmigiani Fleurier, they always update certain things, and there's little subtleties and differences. They only produce a handful of watches per year. I mean, handful in terms of maybe 1,000 or 2,000. Maybe they've gone up since then, but at one point they were limited to about 1,000. But as time goes on, obviously they're producing more and more. And so we're talking about very limited production compared to something like a Rolex. And so when the brand is that nimble and that agile, they can just make these little improvements as time goes on and little changes, whether it's because they intended to or they ran out of parts. That's in something that they would only know in their head. But nonetheless, you can see Prince Charles in this picture is seen wearing the watch, and the classic design, although it's a somewhat modern reference number, it's not as classic as something like an offering from a Cartier or a Rolex, but nonetheless, it looks like it easily could have been one of those models. So let's go ahead and flip the camera angle and look at this one a little bit more closely.
So here we have the Parmigiani Fleurier Toric chronograph, cased in a 18 karat gold 40 millimeter case, 3-body design with a double-stepped reeded bezel. That's the design that you see, of course, on the bezel that surrounds the inside of the watch face. And of course, it also features a transparent caseback with sapphire, which I will talk about the movement that is in this watch, which I think you'll find to be incredibly familiar. The dial is guilloche silver with oval gold signature plaque, black Roman numerals, a date aperture between the 1 and 2 o'clock, and it has subsidiary dials for the seconds, 30 minutes, and 12-hour registers, and it features blued hands and gold hands. I think the mixture of the two really makes this watch look beautiful, especially with that classic design, which I will talk about a little bit later in this specific piece review. The movement in this watch is the Parmigiani caliber 400Z, which is based on the El Primero 400, and it features 31 jewels. It's adjusted to 5 positions. A rose gold engine turned rotor is featured in this watch with a straight line lever escapement, a monometallic balance, and a shock absorber. Of course, which watch these days of this quality does not feature a shock absorber?
And what I really enjoy about this Parmigiani Fleurier Toric chronograph is that when you look at the watch, it makes you feel like it is a classic dress watch. Now, it is a chronograph and it is a bit larger in terms of traditional dress watch sizes, but when you look at the design, the way that the numerals are on it, the way that you have the pattern and the guilloching on the dial, and ultimately the way that the bezel is designed on the watch, this watch to me just screams classic dress watch. It looks almost as if this watch was created 100 years ago and it was a reference that existed and they just update it in terms of the specs and the materials and the movement. So that's what I really enjoy about this watch, and I think that that's something that Parmigiani Fleurier, at least for me, really does a great job with. You know, there's watch companies and brands that always like to have the most latest avant-garde modern style, but with Parmigiani Fleurier, although they have done that and they are starting to do that, unfortunately, with some of their Kalpa chronographs coded in either DLC or PVD, what they did with this watch in the earlier 2000s is they did make it look like it's something that easily could have been sitting in a family heirloom vault for the last 30, 40 years, and you pulled it out and it has that kind of iconic look without the watch model really being iconic. Who knows, maybe in the future this watch model will become iconic. After all, the royal family is wearing it, so it does have that potential, but only time will tell us. What do you think about these two watches, both the H. Moser Pioneer Tourbillon as well as the Parmigiani Fleurier Toric chronograph? I would love to hear your feedback. Leave it in the comments below. Also, please do not forget to thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it, and it keeps me making videos for you, especially when we're all pent up, stuck inside with quite literally only YouTube to do. Also, guys, be well, and don't forget, delraywatch.com, 10% off all watches today, only under 10,000. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time. This has been John P.